about fracking because I think a lot of our viewers are going to be interested or concerned about fracking. And so why don't you how this technique for obtaining natural gas, which has a lot of attention put on it for water quality, how it is a role in terms of emissions from natural gas.
So you will jump into this one, so I'm going to go for it. Oh, boy, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there's certainly a lot of controversy about hydraulic fracturing. In terms of air emissions, it's really the only thing I can speak to. There are also our water quality concerns, both surface water and groundwater associated with hydraulic fracturing, but I work on water, so I can't comment on that. With regard to air emissions, the concern with hydraulic fracturing occurs, and like Steve's term that he used of burning the well. When you hydraulically fracture the well, you basically are injecting incompressible fluid in the mostly water with some additives and chemicals can into the rock at sufficient high pressure to essentially break this rock up. This rock is essentially impermeable to gas. It's very solid, very tight, not a lot of pore space. By fracturing the rock, you create a whole network of cracks that sometimes extend for up to hundreds of feet into the rock formation, and then the gas can escape from the rock formation into the wellbore. When you do this, you essentially pressurize the well or the subsurface by pressurizing sort of a can of soda. So in order to get the gas to flow back, what you need to do is essentially pop the top on it, like this, where you use the soda can analogy, and let all this flow back out, let all the water flow back out to clear the wellbore and to clear the rock formation so that the gas can flow. Generally practice was to, if the gas infrastructure wasn't in place, was to either flare the gas or in some cases condense it. If flaring is less good than condensing because of global warming potential methane, it's a waste to burn the gas off, but it's actually a lot better burning off than to just let it escape unoxidized or uncombusted. Increasingly, this is largely been the case for large, very productive well study recently, companies are applying much square covering completion technologies or applying some more sophisticated separation technology that is well enough pressure to allow this flow back to occur, for this sort of expulsion of the water to occur, but still you're just grabbing the gas in a couple of phase or three-phase separator separate out the gas water and gas, and you take the gas and sell it. That's really where we want to go. Taking gas and selling it for good purpose. In the meantime, flaring it is a lot better. There's a lot of controversy about the degree of venting. People will claim really high venting rates. It's not clear that that's the case. Especially as we move forward towards 2050, more and more companies are going to be taking the more responsible approach. Also, one of the interesting things we found in our study is that even if you take some pretty pessimistic assumptions about how much venting is going on, it just doesn't explain this full venting problem. So, you kind of run it out. One time this from MIT that previously published paper where he established methodology to do this. And you run it out and you're going to 10,000 wells in commercial database, and it just doesn't add up to this is really fracking industry, particularly if poor practices are common. But it basically, the end result is that overall this is not a fracking sport. Interestingly, some of the studies in our database were that this is for engagement were taken in the late 1990s, early 2000s, that this type of fracking was not common. And so, and they've got higher emissions as well. So we think that there's evidence from all parts of the industry that there are emissions there. And so from our perspective, it's like when our conclusive was fracking industry, because this really is not, quote unquote, a fracking sport.
I want to just turn to Steve and put you out the last word here. Natural gas is often viewed as a bridge between our fossil fuel present and a future in which renewable sources of energy are our main source of energy. So I want to read, you still feel that that's the case after the work you've done studying natural gas so closely?
So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, we need to have two objectives when it comes to climate change. We need to reduce the short-lived quantity of methane that lives in the atmosphere about 12 years, and that's going to help reduce the rate. But we also need to reduce the total amount of carbon. And the rate of warming caused by methane is a rate function. It's like any criteria. It's like sulfur, like how much you put up today really determines its impact. The carbon is fundamentally different because it sticks around for so long. It's the area that occurs in the stock problem. It's how much do we the aggregate put up. So unless we can go to renewables immediately, which we want to do absolutely the most we can, but we can't get rid of all of the higher carbon fuels immediately for renewables. It's going to take decades. We can argue about how much. If we can substitute those higher carbon fuels for lower carbon fuels while we're pushing as hard as we can on renewables, what you find is you emit significantly less carbon. And because it's the aggregate amount of carbon emitted, not the rate of emission emitted, you actually cause less future climate change. That's what we ultimately care about for the future. So we need to do two things. So we got to push down really hard on methane now and get that rate way down to the minimum. And we have to push down as hard as we can on carbon emissions as quickly as we can. To do that, we want to get the least amount of fossil fuels and other fossil fuels we use. We want to have the lowest carbon content fossil fuels possible. So I don't see how you can accomplish those without going to the most efficient fossil fuels, which is natural gas.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I'll jump in. I'm totally agreeing there. I think this is exactly the right approach. This is about natural gas or renewables. We obviously need renewables in the long term. I think natural gas is important in the short term, and that's a solid strategy. Especially maybe states ago. Thank you both for joining us on Science Live. Thanks for those of you and comments you got. Take care, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Live chat about science and religion. We have some really interesting presentations today at the University of Chicago about how scientists and religious people view one another and what are some opportunities for building bridges between each community. So with us today we have Elaine Howard-Edwards, the professor of sociology at Rice University, and she just completed a very interesting survey about conceptions of science and religion in both scientific and religious communities. We have also Galen Terry, who's the vice president of the National Association of Evangelicals, and we have Jennifer Wiseman, who's sitting here with me. She's the director of the AAA Dialogue on Science, Ethics, and Religion. So we'll be taking your questions on our on the webpage for the live chat, so please leave them in the comments as the chat received, and I will make sure to pass them to our guests. And so I think we'll get started with Elaine. If you could just tell us a little bit more about about the survey that you did and some of its most interesting and surprising results.
So in December, we started a survey that we had the intent of answering 3 kinds of very broad questions. So the first being, what do religious people, particularly evangelicals, think about science and religion and scientists? And the second large question being, what do scientists think about religion? And we're particularly interested in getting a very broad overview of scientists, not just scientists who they are part of the most elite sector of scientists, but what we call rank and file scientists, scientists from a broad variety of stages in American society. To that end, just closed a few weeks ago, so really hot off the press here, we surveyed over 16,000 Americans about their views on the science and religion interface. We got a 63% response, so over 10,000 responded, and we're really excited about some of those findings.
What are some of the findings? Tell us 3 or 4 of your favorite ones.
Right. So 3 or 4 of my favorite ones. 3 parts to narrow them down, Lizzie. Okay, so out of those, many. So about, I think this is a story of whether you see the cup half empty or half full. So if you are looking for conflict between religion and science, there's certainly a place to find it in these data. So about 1/5 of the general population perceives tension between religious communities and scientists. So we have the question, do you perceive hostility by religious people towards science, and do you perceive hostility by scientists towards religion? So 20% of Americans perceive hostility by religious people towards science, and about 20% perceive hostility by scientists towards religion. So there's definitely a place of conflict. When we turn just to the evangelical respondents, so those who some say, if you believe some media reports that have some tension with science, particularly issue of evolution, we find that 29% of evangelicals consider there to be a conflict between religion and science and beyond the side of religion. Also, scientists and evangelicals are very different kinds of populations religiously, so 44% of evangelicals see themselves as very religious compared to only 15% of scientists. When you turn towards the cup half full side, I think you also see in these data some indication that there is some possibility for dialogue. So we have about 40% of evangelicals saying that science and religion can be very much in collaboration, so 48%, and 40% of scientists saying that science and religion can be in collaboration. So there's room for dialogue, but also a very obvious conflict for some.
And Jalen, can you tell us a little bit about why you think a survey like Link was important, and if you were surprised by any of the findings so far?
Sure. This is a very important survey because it helps us understand some of the dynamics that, as Elaine said, are sometimes misrepresented by the media or by critics on one side or the other. I think one of the most important or interesting findings is the idea that there are more than 2 million evangelical scientists in our society. So the people who actually, according to the survey, are even more committed to their faith than the average evangelical, and at the same time, they're very committed to their calling as scientists. So those are people that can help bridge some of these misunderstandings that we see between our two communities, and so I'm quite pleased to see that. The survey does show that there are some problems, and it's really interesting to see that evangelical scientists, those who are actually working in the field, do see a certain amount of hostility on part of their colleagues to their faith. That's something that in terms of we can build some bridges to help to reduce some of that hostility.
Yeah, let me just pick up on my foot for a second on what Galen said. So we look in particular at scientists who are themselves evangelical. So 17% of the science community that we surveyed identified with that label evangelical. We found some interesting things there that actually 72% of them think that science and religion can be in complete collaboration. And as Galen alluded to, these evangelical scientists in some ways are even more religious than their evangelical peers in the pew. So 51% of them are very religious, or express themselves very religious, compared to 44% of evangelicals. They're more likely to attend services weekly. 54% of them attend religious services weekly compared to 42% of evangelicals more broadly. And they're also more likely to read religious texts weekly. 47% compared to about 40% of evangelicals broadly. So each person somehow are able to keep a successful foot in both worlds. So if we want dialogue, perhaps there's contention about whether we ought to even have dialogue. I think we should hear from the viewers. But if we want dialogue, perhaps this community should be thought of as a kind of group of boundary pioneers, if there is a boundary between those two worlds that they have perhaps successfully found a way across those worlds.
And I just want to add that one reason we probably do want to have such a dialogue is that science doesn't exist in a vacuum, but it actually exists, first of all, to serve a part of society, and it depends upon a part of society for support for its activities, funding for research, for a favorable policy environment. So a lot of reasons that scientists would want to have evangelical support, and on part of evangelicals, we also very much support the scientific endeavor and the calling the science has to expand the frontiers of knowledge that we support all of us.
And what do you hear from the survey, from your experiences, out there in the field? What are some of the misconceptions that religious people have of scientists and vice versa? What kinds of stereotypes are being pushed into the media or people out there in the world?
Well, I'm a professor at a university, that's I think, very good students, and my university students think it's not possible for scientists to be a religious person. So that's, there's certainly, I think, among some, a very powerful perception that scientists themselves cannot be religious. If you see among these rank and file scientists, those who work in a broad variety of occupations, they're not too religiously different than the general population. So it says 17% of them describe themselves as evangelical, about 23% of the American population describe themselves as evangelical. That's an enormous difference. 24% of them see themselves as atheist, agnostic, or having no religion compared to 16% of the general population. I think that the perspective of scientists who work at elite research universities who are members of these elite groups are perhaps taken to represent all of scientists, and if you're concerned about dialogue, then perhaps you have to start with these scientists who are most likely to actually be part of religious community themselves as a place as religious people perhaps leaders of that dialogue.
And as part of the view of religious people, many times the media will take the most extreme voices who seem not that much into science at all and present that as a typical religious narrative. In fact, those people are a small percentage of the religious world and the evangelical world.
And let's talk a little bit about the focus, at least at this phase of data analysis, on the evangelical community. Why was that pretty started?
It makes sense as a place to start with because there's been the most discussion. I would think we've actually done analogies in my research team of just media reports of this issue that's most likely to talk about evangelicals. So it's a group that people are talking about. It's a group that's been in some corners of the country a leader in saying that race not be taught alongside evolution in schools. So certainly we're finding that not all evangelicals think that, but this is a group that has been out there talking about science. So it makes sense as a place to start. I don't think we can stop there. We need to also analyze what evangelicals think alongside other groups of religious people to find out if evangelicals are truly unique. But I think there's it makes sense as a place to start, and a place to start if we want to have a broader societal acceptance of science and appreciation for science, because this is a religious group. It's a very large share of some sociologists religions think the largest share of the American religious public. So this makes sense as a place to start.
And Galen, can you tell us a little bit about what evangelical means? Obviously, very diverse community and very large, as William referred to. So how does the National Association for Evangelicals define evangelical?
Sure, we think that evangelicals are people who take the Bible seriously and trust in Jesus as their Savior and Lord. More broadly, evangelicalism is the renewal movement within Christianity, people who focus on the Bible as an authority for their way of living, and then focuses on the work of Jesus Christ and how we have personal relations with Christ as the center of our lives and something that impacts everything we do, including our occupations, our science work they do in the scientific years.
And Elaine, you talked a little bit about how there's this perception in the general public that scientists can't be religious, or there's this false choice of being religious between being, being a scientist and practicing religious being. What do you think? What do you think that we're losing when science and religion are presented as a general choice?
Religion is influenced by the science, and I think that's particularly consequential for the future that we're in, a situation where we want America to be competitive with other countries in the science educational structure. We want the best and the brightest to go into science, and there's good reason to believe that some of those best and brightest are separate religious communities, and we want kids to be talented in areas that have all the access to science that they can. Obviously, there are implications for the funding of science, there are implications for appreciation of science, there are implications, I think science policymakers believe that having a fundamental understanding of science is just a good part of being a citizen, a good citizen, and so we wouldn't want anything from the science side of anything taking over that. So I think that's extremely important.
Science is not something which is conducted in a vacuum. It's a part of the broader national life, the economic life, the educational life of the nation. And so having the participation of the whole society, and typically having voices that bring in a moral sensibility to the conversation is quite important, so that the work of science is done for the service of the common good.
Jennifer, do you have any comments on that? What are we losing if we do the false choice of being religious?
Well, I think, as Dr. Eckman said, we're losing a lot of potential science talent. We, as scientists, we want to be very clear about the kinds of questions that science can address, and not to sort of overreach into some of these bigger questions that science is not well equipped to address, and thereby not disenfranchising science talent out there unnecessarily. So I think we want a couple things. We want to make sure that all the potential science talent out there is not unnecessarily distanced from science based on this perception of science. But we also want to be able to communicate our science results to as broad an audience as we can. That's what serving society is all about. And if our message is muddled by some misperceptions that we as scientists have about religious groups or that religious groups have about us, that makes it more difficult to make the results of science to be a maximum benefit for most people. So I think there are many reasons why we want to make sure that misperceptions, that's what this project is all about, engaging perceptions, right or wrong, that people have, making sure that we can kind of remove as much as we can away from misperception so that we can have more honest dialogue, and not great everything, that we can have more constructive conversation, and understanding that there might be some underlying assumptions of things going on in life that might not be accurate. So this whole project from the science community is very interesting because it engages not just people's opinions on this science topic or that, but on their perceptions. What are the perceptions that religious groups have about scientists and about the importance of science itself? And do scientists come across in a way that we don't really even realize we're coming across, in a way that's not constructive to dialogue? And also it's interesting because the survey goes into how scientists perceive religious groups right or wrong. And I like the way the survey is looking at a broad swath of people in scientific careers, the kinds of folks that people on the street would think of as their neighborhood scientists, if you will. So not only just scientists in research universities, but also scientists in local industries and local education institutions and science-related technical careers. These are the people that are more likely to be run into by people on the street. So I think these perceptions are very important because they can actually either enhance or hamper our efforts as scientists to share the results of science with the broader public.
And from the point of view of evangelicals, this is a completely outside mission of serving society. So we as evangelicals also have the same calling to serve society, and so we can do that in part by participating in scientific endeavors and giving our best contributions to making the whole process work and advance further.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about we've already talked about the very popular perception of the kind of or choice between science and religion. But let's talk a little bit about what science and religion have in common. Like mentioned that several, at least in certain organizations, like when the AAAS or the National Association of Evangelicals, maybe that doesn't extend out so far to every other religious community or scientific community, but serving society is extremely important. What other things can bring science and religion together in a way, like have you been close enough proximity that starting to think about dialogue makes it possible or productive?
So scientists and religious people, particularly evangelicals, have a real concern for diversity in American society. So, scientists that I talk with in my research are very concerned there's not better gender representation, there's not better minority representation in science. Those sources are heavily concentrated in the evangelical community and Catholic communities, and so there's reason to believe that if we increase the diversity of religious people in science, we'll also be increasing the diversity of science overall. I know from the evangelicals that I talked with for my research that there's a huge concern in making sure that churches are more diverse, that diversity is a concern, that justice is a concern. And so I think the sensibility of justice for society is something that religious communities, particularly evangelical and scientists, can really get on board with. Wanting to find, wanting science to be used to solve food insecurity, wanting science to be utilized to, care for the environment. So these kinds of things I think the communities can really share. And perhaps, I know it's not Pollyanna-ish. I mean, there's a long way to go, but perhaps it's more productive to start where there's areas of commonality rather than go right to the hot button areas of difference.
Yes, and we share a common vocation of pursuing truth as well. For Christians, we believe that all truth is God's truth, the same God said, and science as well, and it has the same vocation to expand the frontier of knowledge, and they do that beneficial to everyone, and something we go support.
So we're starting to have some questions come in online, and Dave, if you're watching, leave your questions in the comments. The question comes from Adam Shapiro. Is there any sense of certain scientific fields being more or less attractive to people identifying as religion? That is, are science, religion, and perception attracting people from entering science, or diverting them into subfields that are maybe less threatening to religion? And are there particular subfields of science that do attract more people who identify as religion?
So we're going to be able to analyze that with these survey data. We're not quite there yet. From broader research that I've done among academic scientists, we would be led to believe that people who are religious are less likely to go to research universities to work as scientists. And so there ought to be a lot of discussion about why that's the case, but that seems to be pretty incontrovertible that that's the case. And so in this population of rank and file scientists, 17% describe themselves as evangelical. In other research I've done, a survey I conducted 20 years ago, only less than 2% of scientists who work at top research universities describe themselves as evangelical. So there's a real difference there. So the kinds of cases where they do science are different. There's some overrepresentation in the look at research on college majors and things like that. There's some overrepresentation that evangelical believes in science vocations that we think of as helping people, such as medicine, more applied forms of science. And so I'm interested in these research when we get to the point of people taking the major and translating it into actually being a working scientist. If that's true in these data too. So stay tuned. Don't think this is all there is. We've just started crunching numbers for this data, but we'll be able to talk about that kind of thing. I think it's pretty interesting, funny ways.
Another question from the internet. This is a question from Robin. Do you think that religious principles and norms have to be adapted to the modern scientific realities? As you know, there were a set of concessions in favor of science after the Second Council. So how would you describe the scope of possible further concessions? And if further concessions are made, would religion be in danger of losing its importance and role in society? Maybe Galen, you can help me answer that question.
Yeah, I think the word concessions is an interesting one. I'm not sure if that would be the word I would use to describe the way in which we engage. I think as Christians and theologians, our task is to try to approach truth as best we can, and we recognize that it's fallible, finite human beings, so we don't have all the answers, and we don't always get it right, and we can approximate more and more the truth as we make discoveries. So certainly the discoveries of science can be helpful as well as the advancements of the field, and I would hope that we would approach this with a spirit of humility. It's not that we're rewriting our basic beliefs, but we're open to seeing where we may have a fuller appreciation than we previously had about what actually is. That's the goal. So,
here's a question from Anne. When you say religion, what do you have in mind? Different religions are pretty different. Some have specific teachings, others don't have. For example, the Catholic Church teaches that the communion wafer literally transforms into the belief like this compatible with science. Or are we forced to redefine religion into something much less technically compatible? So perhaps we could start with, for purposes of this survey, what kinds of religious communities were looked at, how were they grouped together or separated, and then maybe we can get into whether or not we have to redefine religious agreement or collaboration.
Just to add that technical question for Elvis. So we looked at all kinds of religious groups in our survey, and it's a survey of the general population. There's lots of ways to conceptualize religion in a survey. So the data that I presented to the AAAF today, we simply asked people to self-classify. So we took their word for it, what they are. And the evangelical classification was a matter of people feeling comfortable. There's a label evangelical describing them very well or not well. We also asked them about what kinds of traditional categories they belong to. So are they Catholics, or like Protestants, or Hindus, or Muslims? And then we also have all kinds of ways of thinking about identities, the kind of identity categories, the kinds of beliefs that you have as part of your tradition. So to try to have as complex as possible, yet as understandable as possible, a way of defining religion.
Yeah, to answer the questions of theology, we have to have, there are some things that science is very good at measuring and exploring and examining, and others that it's not at all good for. And to ask a scientist to provide data on spiritual reality is really not respecting the proper role they have played. And so if you wouldn't ask a pastor to give you a scientific theory, based on his biblical science. So we respect the fact that science has a role to play. It studies basically spiritual reality. It doesn't have a way to study spiritual reality. Spiritual reality isn't there. We believe it is, but it has to be approached using different methods and tools.
And so I think you alluded earlier to these sort of hot button issues and maybe starting in a place of more collaborative place before we get to something, like teaching evolution or creationism in schools or even climate change, which is, has become completely controversial right now. So did your survey ask people about any of these hot button issues in particular? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I did. Really thank you. So we asked what they believe about creation and evolution, and we allowed, unlike some other surveys, a really broad variety of responses that were pretty fine-tuned. And so I'm going to give you just the top 4 choices among all of the apps that describe the population. So a strict creationist account, so this would be labeled as God created the universe, the earth, and all of life within the past 10,000 years. So 22% of the general population has this view, except this view is describing a strict their view of creation, and evangelical 43% had a strict creation view. We also allowed for God-guided evolution, which is God created the universe and the earth billions of years ago. God started to have guided evolution over millions of years, and here 18% of the general population compared to 23% of evangelicals said that this describes them well. Intelligent design, which we hear a lot about, and this is the universe and earth being between billions of years ago, and humans evolved over millions of years according to the design of an intelligent force. That actually did describe, not very many people thought that this describes their view well, and 7% of the general population compared to 8% of evangelicals. And to give it just one more second here, the natural so all life, including humans, evolved over millions of years. There was no God involved in either the creation or evolution of life. Only 10% of the general population said this describes their view well, compared to only 3% of evangelicals. So I was somewhat surprised as a researcher that so many evangelicals take the strict creation view. Also, somewhat surprised that on the other hand, so many take the God-guided evolution view, given what you hear in the media as well. And even more surprised that intelligent design wasn't popular at all, it seems, among much of anyone. So that's kind of where we are with these data. It's obviously still very much a live issue.
And evangelicals, of course, believe that God created the heavens and the earth that we're told in Genesis. The survey shows that there are a variety of views about how that happened, and that's, I think that accurately reflects diversity within our communities, an issue that many people are paying quite a bit of attention to these days, and we think that's good. And I think we'll continue to see some permanent as different ideas are explored further in the coming years.
And you may not have as extensive analyses of PJ yet, but did the survey only ask about any other similar kind of hot button or political issues that you're just waiting to find out what you think?
Yeah, we did. I wish we was really close to you. So we did ask about climate change and stem cell research and other kinds of issues, and we did not analyze those yet. One, we did ask the question about views of teaching, support for teaching creative and intelligent design in public schools by religious tradition. And so the choices were, would you generally favor or oppose teaching? And then the choice of creationism instead of evolution in public schools, the percent that strongly favor among evangelical Protestants is 42% compared to 13% of mainline Protestants, so Episcopal and Methodist and other mainline foundations. Catholics, 10% of Catholics say they would strongly favor teaching creationism instead of evolution. And then there's other kinds of responses from other religious groups. So creationism along with evolution in public schools, 25% of evangelicals favor this compared to 18% of mainline Protestants, 17% of Catholics. So evangelicals on the whole more strongly favor teaching creationism instead of evolution in public schools when compared to other groups. But I think you need to hold something like that alongside the fact that evangelicals in general seem to have pretty strong support for science, or at least as much support as the general public does. So we also found that there's really no appreciable difference between evangelicals and other portions of the general population say in the likelihood of asking a scientist a question about science. In general, Americans are not hugely likely to do that, 14%, but are likely to go with an actual living scientist with a question about science. But evangelicals are unlikely than any other group in the American public. So you see some kind of appreciation for science among the community, but then definitely the evolution issue and potentially other issues there's more tension.
Certainly, one of the issues that comes up here is we do have a variety of views on this topic as well. For many evangelicals who have concerns about what is being taught in our schools, it has to do not just with what theories are presented, but the interpretations that go with those theories. So if I send my children to school and they're going to be taught, among other things, that really there is no God, I'm concerned about that. Even if I might not be so concerned about the scientific theories, when you start to have a theological wrap around that, that doesn't become concerning part of people.
And we did, I can't remember what I mentioned at the beginning, but our research team also did 315 in-depth interviews, 142 of which were with evangelicals. And what Galen is saying is borne out in the data, that there's a sense that there's a lot more at stake when we start talking about the evolution issue than just whether or not you get a question right on a science test. That there's larger issues of meaning at stake. This also speaks about relationship to the broader scientific community. Evangelicals may appreciate science, but think that scientists are not always friendly to that community. And so I think that's an important distinction and something that an organization like the AAAS can really, that cares about science for the public good, can really get at trained scientists to think through how they approach religious groups, perhaps starting by realizing that there are religious persons among their midst. It is a place to start with that, but certainly there's a lot of room there to think through how we can have creative dialogue for the sake of everyone's good.
So we have a question from Amit about some kind of the different methodologies behind religion and behind science. So he proposes that scientific theory, the point of it is that it's always subject to scrutiny, and religious beliefs are not necessarily. And do you think that those differences in how science and religion are kind of done, or at least the perception of how they're done, is that just an accurate perception? Like, does religious belief, is science more open to questioning than religion? And if so, does that impede collaboration in some way?
Well, I very much, I guess, question the presumption of the question with that religion is not tested, science is any more tested. The Psalm says, taste and see that the Lord is good. And in fact, religious claims are tested every day by believers and unbelievers who are exploring the meaning of their relationship with God or the supernatural. And there are just different tools that help us to test those claims than we use in science, and it would be appropriate to take out a measuring tape to try to measure God.
And Galen, you talked a little bit about how sometimes the loudest voices in the room in this debate in particular are not always most helpful or productive. What would both of you and Jennifer too have to say about what are some of the ways we can increase the softer voices? The voices that are already might be more open to collaboration but don't already, maybe don't know how to do it, or a little hesitant because it seems like such a contentious field, and if you're if you want to collaborate, it doesn't seem like a great place, but the state is so heated already. What can we do to increase the power, if not the volume, the power and impact of those softer voices in the conversation?
It's a really hard road. I mean, radical reconciliation doesn't sell, right? And so there's a kind of propensity for whatever reason towards this conflict narrative. But hopefully with this collaboration in using rights and AAAS and all the AAAS is going to continue to do, you'll just think of, I always find you that's always there. We will start to discuss collaboratively some ways to get religious leaders together and religious congregants and scientists from different religious backgrounds and no religious commitment together to really talk through issues. I do think that there's some merit, as we talked about today in our broader session, in starting with some issues where there's some real agreement first, and then once we establish and real relational, real relationships, then we can go forward with some of the much harder issues and talk about our differences in thoughtful ways.
So send your text to AAAS for the DOSA program.
Do you have anything to look at?
Sure, I think most scientists are sort of busy at the bench doing their science, so they're not used to talking about these broader issues about science and society and so forth. So I think one thing that scientists can do is try to learn how better to talk about not only the science results that we're getting, but why they should be important and interest to broader society, and be careful to differentiate when we're talking about the things that science can tell us and the kinds of bigger questions that science isn't well equipped to address on its own. So I think for scientists, first of all, recognizing what kinds of questions science can address better is helpful. And also I think people in the public are interested in the science, but they're also interested in scientists and understanding how we can connect on a human level. And scientists are not well known for being great socialites, but one thing scientists I think can do is be more communicative about their lives as a whole. What do they value? What is their particular cultural heritage and so forth? How do they become interested in science? How does it fit into their larger worldview and philosophy? And I think that helps people connect with scientists on a more human level, and that opens a better portal also for science results to reach a broader swath of the public.
And yeah, we talked a little bit before about how the survey defines scientists and how it's quite a bit broader than a lot of other research that has been done on this issue before. So how does it, and do you think it's expanded, in the definition, I think a lot of people have a perception of scientists as, old men who work at Harvard, who never leave their lab and don't get out, sit there, talk to the community, and when they do, don't make any sense. So how do you think that do you think that not only changing the definition of scientists in a survey like this, but do you think it would be important to change the definition of scientists in the society as a whole? Do you think if more people had a more inclusive idea of what it meant to be a scientist, do you think that would allow for, it would make collaboration with other groups easier going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way to catch the viewers on, the way that we define a scientist for the purpose of the survey is looking at occupational groups, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is a national group that classifies advanced occupations for a low-respected group. And so you look at individuals in science-related occupations. So you might say that you're in, there's many science-related occupations in medicine, you might put down your occupational classification, but really you are a hospital administrator, someone who works around scientists, and scientists who went one step further in the aspect for self-classification. You find yourself as a scientist, and then we also thought that you need to have at least some level of science training in order to be a scientist. So we want to make sure they have at least a bachelor's degree. So that allows a broad swath of people to be considered as working scientists, and we first of all think they're scientists. They're all in science-related occupations. About 20% of them do teaching colleges and universities, but then the rest do not. There are people who are, say, working in technical medical research, or working in medicine, or working as a in research and development for a corporation. And so those persons map on to the American population in a way that's a bit more realistically similar than the kind of stereotype of the man at Harvard you described, Lizzie. Those persons are still out there. I mean, those are scientists too, right? And this does describe a portion of the population. But if we describe the population a little bit better, I think we'll also be able to have a little bit better connection to a broader group of people in American society. Just as stories that we've done, or research that we've seen on gender in science shows that if women go to science classes, see a woman teaching a science class, or thinking that, yeah, I can do this too. If some kids in congregations think that someone in their congregation is actually a living, breathing scientist and it's not the way to do that, then they might feel like that occupation is more accessible to them.
And if they think that it's thinkable to consider those vocations, because it doesn't mean you're going to become American.
And we have a very specific question from Roman. Was there, this is for Elaine, I suppose, was there a question in your survey regarding the end of days scenario? We'd like to know.
There wasn't. This is really hard choices when you do survey research. It's called limited real estate. So you have to choose. We did ask over 75 questions. It was 25-minute survey, which is about the max that you can give a person expected to take it. So of course we didn't ask that question, but I think we only analyzed about 6 questions from the survey for this presentation today, and the AAA asked, and you can expect a lot more out of our research group and out of this cooperative relationship with the AAA. So not that question, but hopefully lots more you'll find exciting.
And he also would like to know what the opinions of the three of you are about how to jointly use religion and science for the sake of peace and security in the world. So you hear a lot about these, there's something conflict that brings up Syria and other large-scale armed conflicts that may or may not have, some kind of religious component to them, or religious connection. And you don't hear a lot about science in that. But how do you think that science and religion work together to increase peace and security?
I think it's a broad question. So I don't think I'll really put it down, and others will have more thoughtful responses. But I do think that sometimes, we think about the places that are conflict ridden. Sometimes those are places of great societal equality. And I do think that religious people and scientists who are religious or not have in common that appreciation for trying to work towards elimination of broad global equality. And I mentioned before things like food insecurity and just general economic development. Science is contributing enormously to alleviating some of that. And religious people also are on the ground. And so that's a real area of common interest.
Before coming to CNE, I had the privilege to spend about 25 years doing international humanitarian work, and I lived in several countries that were just emerging from wars. And Elaine's absolutely right that you see in these places, many times there are issues. There's always some natural resource constraints that are often exacerbated by poor environmental policies, and then you have poverty, and you have food shortages. And many times there's a role for science. It's more than science for sure, but science has a role to play in contributing solutions. Now, we have to also remember that every innovation has a downside. And so sometimes we get these bright ideas and then find out that they're unintended consequences. So we need to be thoughtful and cautious about how we intervene in places around the world where there are major problems, because the problems took a long time to develop and develop and solve overnight, but there's definitely things that science properly applied can do.
So I think there are many areas that are ripe for cooperation between scientists and religious communities around the world to better the lives of people. And in fact, not just of people, but of all life on the planet. And this is because the science can provide us information, can help us understand reality of what's going on with the environment, for example, or how to grow better crops, or how to find fresh water supplies, or even how to lift the human spirit by doing basic research and basic exploration activities. But it requires people to actually be the portal for that information and to make it, to put it into practice. And many people around the world are involved in religious communities, and those communities can often benefit by scientific knowledge to put into practice their values, which can include environmental stewardship. It can include desiring to uplift the poor, to provide food and water, to provide a positive vision for a peace-filled world. And I think in this sense, if scientists can provide scientific information, be it practical information on how we can improve life on a daily basis, or be it the more basic studies we're doing about our place in the universe, all of this, I think, is a benefit to people around the world in all kinds of situations. And if we can cooperate with other cultures and religious communities on the best use of this information to benefit more people, and in fact, the entire biosphere, if you will, that could be a great way of working together. So, but to have that happen, you need more relationships. You need to meet one another. You need to know each other. So that's where dialogue comes in.
Another example would be with nuclear weapons, which are probably the greatest single variable variant likely. But if there were ever a nuclear exchange, I think one of the greatest threats of the fight, obviously scientists play a role in making these things. But more recently, science has also advanced quite a bit in the area of protection of nuclear testing, making much more possible and feasible the implementation of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which, if ratified by countries, will be an important step toward removing the threat of future nuclear war.
So we're going to start, we have about 10 minutes left, we're going to start to wrap things up, so if you have any audience, if anyone in the audience has any questions left over, please leave your comments now. So let's talk a little bit about the future of the survey data. Elaine, what other kinds of analyses are you hoping to do in the coming months? And then maybe Jennifer can tell us a little bit about how Chick-fil-A hopes to use that data when you have those multiple features.
We have questions on a broad variety of science issues. As I mentioned, climate change, care for the environment, stem cell research, human genetic reproductive testing, uses of science, and we also have questions about how the importance of science issues compared to other kinds of issues matters or doesn't matter for broad Americans, but also for the religious public. And we also have a lot of questions about attitudes toward science themselves. And so I think there's just right room for distributing these data to this dialogue committee. And Jennifer can tell us about how those are supposed to use this.
Yeah, so this survey has been done cooperatively between Rice University and Chick-fil-A. And at this point, we're looking forward to more analysis from Dr. Eklund and the Rice University group to get into more questions on the survey. We just now started the very preliminary analysis of this. And from the Chick-fil-A's perspective, we're looking forward to using this data as kind of a springboard for workshops and things where we bring leaders from different religious traditions together with scientific leaders to talk about what we're learning through these surveys and how to better improve communication and dialogue, what perceptions are out there that are hampering the advancement of science and the dissemination of information and benefits to the broader public. As scientists, we're very interested in making sure that the benefits of science reach as many people as possible. And so if there are perceptions about science and scientists out there in the public, and in particular in religious groups that are incorrect or unhelpful, we want to make sure that we tease that out and address that. And also if there are perceptions among scientists about religious groups that are also perhaps distorted or unhelpful, we want to find that out as well and help scientists become better equipped to talk about science with the broader public so that it will benefit more people. So we're quite interested in going forward with this project, which will now move into a phase of regional workshops and a national conference next year, bringing together, again, scientific leaders as well as leaders of different religious groups to talk about how better to understand one another and to have better dialogue. So.
Well, maybe as a closing question, I think it's for you to give some final last reflection on the title of our chat, which is Can Science and Religion Coexist? Anyone want to start?
I think the best answer to that question is the reality is that they do. And the question then is how can they coexist well and in a way that brings out the best of both of them in service for the other. And I think that's the work that we're trying to do. We don't want to in any way communicate that this is easy work or that it can be done quickly and without reflection, but it's hard work. There's obvious areas of conflict between these two communities, but there's also, it seems, some real room for collaboration and complementarity as well.
I'm saying we can and we must, because the stakes are very high. We face so many issues as a nation and as a world community, where the contributions of science and the contributions of people of faith are both very much needed in order to bring about a better life for all people. So we have to find ways to work together and I'm part of themselves. We're very interested to do that and look forward to how we can do that better in the days ahead.
Sure. I think what we discovered at the Chick-fil-A is the most fruitful way of communications about science and religion, at least for scientists, is not to jump into sort of the philosophical question of science and religion coexisting and whatnot, but rather to look at hot topics in science that are common interests to scientists and religious communities and talk about what those common interests are and what we can do together to address them. And that can be anything from the use of technology to improve agriculture, this kind of thing, all the way to the exciting new space exploration we're doing. We're looking for planets outside our solar system. Are we ready if we find life out there? These are things that are interesting both to religious communities and to scientists. And if you find topics of common interest, then you can start developing conversation both about the data that the scientists are good at gathering, but also about the broader context of how the scientific discoveries fit into the broader values of human society. And that's what religious communities are a little better at. So for these kinds of big, exciting questions that science is addressing and how they fit into society, I think the best fruit comes when there's active and healthy dialogue between scientists and religious communities and society at large.
Great. Thank you so much to all three of you. Again, our guests were Elaine Howard Eklund from Rice University, Galen Carey from the National Association of Evangelicals, and Jennifer Wiseman from the Chick-fil-A Dialogue on Science, Ethics, and Religion. And some of our, if you're interested in more resources on this topic, some of our commenters have actually left some links to some more resources on science and religion throughout the chat, so please check those out. This chat will be archived forever on the page. You can pass it around. You can send it. You can watch it as many times as you want. Send it to all your friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to Science Magazine's coverage of the Chick-fil-A meeting. We'll have more content this evening and tomorrow. And yeah, great. That was a great chat. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome to Science Live. I'm Shelley Pacific with Science Magazine, and I'm here at the annual AAAS meeting in Chicago. My two guests today are William Baker, who's a structural engineer with the firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, and he's the mind behind a lot of very tall buildings, including the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And we also have Virginia Parks, who is an urban geographer at the University of Chicago, who analyzes patterns of inequality in cities. Who is here because they both give talks today at a symposium called The Future of Cities, Dense or Dispersed. And they're here to talk more about some of those ideas. So thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
So I thought that we could start with a statistic that I found really striking earlier today at the symposium, which is that every week 8 million more people are urbanizing, either being born into a city or migrating from a rural to an urban environment. And so given that there's this, the demand for this development is so enormous, there are all these questions about what we need out of our cities and how to construct a good city and how do we evaluate how well a city is working. So remember that if you're watching online, if you have any questions for our guests, you can post them in the comment box below this video, and I'll be checking in throughout the chat to read those. So just to get things started, maybe we can talk about the here and now, the question of sort of why cities look the way they do. And the typical image of a city center is basically a bunch of tall rectangles, so, grids of tiny windows all packed together on city blocks, right? And I wonder, Bill, you could start from sort of an engineering perspective, talking about why cities look like that and sort of how that became the standard.
Well, what we're going to see is the whole building in the city used to be limited by the engineer's ability to calculate. So the buildings had to be simple geometry, so that was all the computational power. The only place are designed to put a computer, so people had to calculate by hand. So they became regular and simple for the middle to create it. This worked very well with Columbus also because the simpler the geometry, the less expensive it is to build. And so, essentially a series of kind of limited vocabulary of boxes. And in the last few years, there's been springs that way where we're able to calculate, engineer things that are more complicated. It doesn't mean we should. And the good thing is a lot of scholars say the much of building screening with a new kind of difference from our neighbors in ways which in my mind are not equal. We're just trying to get different states of a new form that we're just mostly. And so that was somewhat problematic. In fact, I think the best is the ones we can learn. So you can building everything else is somewhat quiet. It's called background those. And so you have one of those to say. Otherwise, it's like, oh, wait, screening, look at me. I just want to say, hey, it's very responsible. Let's talk about it. Can't really.
I wonder also if you could just tell us briefly, the talk that you gave today is called the case for density. Can you tell us sort of what that case is that you can make for density and what it's really out?
Well, first of all, there's a need to house and employ a great number of people. My most growing greatest question is, well, where should we go? How should we do this? Should the model, the best models be where people are all probably just spread across the countryside, or is it better to be more together in one kind of situation? So I try to limit myself to talking about some of the energy and carbon footprint issues that are discussed. And one of the things we say in America is that we tend to expand but not break us matter. Essentially, Chicago is actually much less dense than it was in 1950. The population of the Chicago region is bigger. It's mainly a question of the being outside of the density center and kind of a suburban rural that's there. One of the things we found is that about 8 acres of agricultural land is converted into developmental uses every year. So in 75 years, we've observed about the equivalent of New Jersey from agricultural use to developmental use. And so this is part of it. A lot of it has to do with transportation. The energy in the United States, over 40% is used by buildings. Okay? And the second is another transportation. And this is highly related. If you take a major development inside the city, so such as Chicago, you're going to be discouraged by the center. You'll have the suburbs, you'll probably have an equal amount of structure built for parking as you have for people. And that's a bit of the problem. That doesn't count the highways. Things can do different parking lots.
I want to get to the question of transportation, but I wonder, Virginia, if you could sort of share your perspective on the advantages of density, or whether there are advantages of density in the sort of research that you do on inequality.
Right. Well, maybe I could back up a little bit. It's a long history around city development. It's really dependent on the technology around transportation. So one of the reasons that Chicago was so much denser in 1950 is because we didn't have as ready access to automobiles. So if you think about the 19th century city, it really goes down to walkability, right? Because that's the means of technology for getting around the have. We actually begin with streetcar suburbs to expand the sprawl.